Good morning to all. How are you? Stay safe, stay at home. Last time we discussed about Salmonella, the history, morphology, classification, mainly basing on its antigen, that is Kaufman-White scheme, which is very important for the formulation of Widal test in the diagnosis. And then the clinical entities which produced by genus Salmonella. The first one is enteric fevers. That includes typhoid, paratyphoid fevers. Typhoid fever is being caused by Salmonella typhi. Paratyphoid fevers are caused by Salmonella paratyphi A, B, C. Then food poisoning. And the third entity is septicemia. So now we are going to the lab diagnosis of Salmonella as today's lecture. Before going to lab diagnosis, here you have to go back to the Kaufman-White scheme, which forms the basis for the Widal test. Here we are going to detect two antigens of Salmonella typhi and paratyphi for the diagnosis of enteric fever. Here you see in the O antigen, the commonest thing is 12. Here paratyphi A 12, B 12, and S typhi 12. Whereas C is not important, it causes only 0.05%. So here in India, S typhi is the first organism causing 95% of enteric fevers, followed by 5% paratyphi A. B and C are very rare, but anyhow, in the diagnosis, we are going to identify S typhi, paratyphi A, paratyphi B, and paratyphi C. We are not including. Here, coming to H antigens, there are two phases, phase 1, phase 2. Phase 2 is not important for us. Phase 1, again you see, there is separate entity A for paratyphi A, B for paratyphi B, C we are not including, and D for S typhi. So here we are putting a common O antigen for all the three, that is S typhi, paratyphi A, paratyphi B, but different H antigens for the diagnosis of S typhi, paratyphi A, paratyphi B. In general, last time we already discussed, I told you, any laboratory diagnosis of any microorganism, whether it is a bacteria or virus or fungus or parasite, you can safely divide it into direct evidence, indirect evidence. Direct evidence is showing the organism directly, either under the microscope or in the culture. Indirect evidence is by showing the antigen or antibody. So many times I used to tell in the laboratory diagnosis of other organisms as well as in the practicals, identification of antigen is costly, whereas identification of antibody is cheaper. So in majority times, we are identifying antibody. Now in the Widal test also, we are going to identify the presence of antibody of S typhi or paratyphi A or paratyphi C in the patients of enteric fever. Now, this was also discussed last time. Which week we have to do which test for the diagnosis of enteric fever? First week, blood culture. Second week, also useful, blood culture is useful, Vidal is not useful. Whereas in the third week, Vidal test is very useful. And whereas the stool and urine cultures are very useful for the identification. And fourth week also, Vidal test, stool and urine cultures are useful and important. Now coming to blood culture. Now when a blood culture is requested to the laboratory, generally people will do a mistake. They will send 5 ml or 2 ml or 3 ml of blood taken directly into a small bottle. They will send to the laboratory. That is not correct. Whenever a word blood culture comes, you have to come to the laboratory, microbiology laboratory, and indent or request for a blood culture bottle which contains sterile broth. And again, these blood culture bottles are different. For enteric fever, different, and pyogenic organisms are different. So for enteric fever, you will request a bile broth. For pyogenic organisms, you will request a glucose broth or Fortis broth. Here, what you have to do, after requesting, you will take to the unit where the patient is present and prepare for collecting blood into the blood culture bottle. What you will do, you have to prepare the cubital fossa for drawing of blood from cubital vein. Around 5 to 10 ml of blood is taken into a large volume of blood culture broth, that is 50 to 100 ml of broth, that gives around 5 to 10% concentration. That includes sodium polymethyl sulfonate, that is called liquoid, to destroy any other antibodies. And sometimes we use Castaneda biphasic medium. I will explain what is the purpose of Castaneda biphasic medium. After drawing this 5 or 10 ml of blood, aseptically you have to transfer that 5 to 10 ml of blood into the blood culture bottle. Immediately it has to be transported to the laboratory, where the laboratory people will keep in the incubator at 37 degrees centigrade for overnight incubation. This is Castaneda biphasic medium. We will discuss. Now, after incubation overnight, next day they will subculture under aseptic conditions by taking few drops from this blood culture bottle and inoculate on the media like McConkey and selective medium like Salmonella, Shigella, agar. Again, they will incubate overnight. Next day, they will see for presence of any colonies, which we already discussed. If it is Salmonella typhi, paratyphi, or paratyphi B, they will produce transparent colonies with block centers on Salmonella, Shigella, agar. If there is no block center, then that is not growth of Salmonella. So here, inoculation into blood culture bottle, incubation at 37 degrees centigrade, overnight incubation, subculture to McConkey agar, SS agar, blood agar, incubation for another 24 hours, that is overnight, identification of the isolate. Identification of the isolate from the presumptive positive culture with the black colony, central colony. We will do gram stain, you will see gram negative bacilli. You will prepare a depression slide for motility test. You will test the motility. So this S typhi, paratyphi A, paratyphi B are motile. And you will do biochemical reactions, which we already discussed by keeping the sugars, which produce gas and acid. and slide agglutination you have to do with polyvalent sera and specific sera for S-type, paratype A, paratype B. Suppose after third day there is no growth, you have to repeat every alternate day, that to be continuous for 1 week. Then you have to declare if you won't found any colonies on Salmonella, Shigella, agar. Now here the importance of Castneda biphasic medium will come. Now this Castneda biphasic medium is containing a liquid and a solid medium in a single bottle. So when you inoculate the blood into the liquid medium, you will subculture overnight and tilt the bottle after 24 hours. Again, keep the bottle straight for another 24 hours in incubator. Next day, you will observe the surface of the solid medium. If any colonies are there, you will open the bottle and you will process for the identification of those colonies. If no colonies, again you will tilt the bottle, make the liquid medium flow on the surface of the solid medium. Keep another 24 hours. Like that alternate day you will continue for 1 week. If no colonies were found for 1 week, even after 1 week, then you will declare it as negative. The advantage is you will not open all the time the bottle. So there is no contamination from outside. That is the importance of Castneda biphasic medium. Now coming to clot culture. In the beginning I told you, when somebody requested a blood culture, the people, whether a resident or a nurse, they will send the blood 2 ml or 3 ml or 5 ml of blood in a sterile bottle to the laboratory without requesting a blood culture medium. Then also you should not waste that blood. Then you have to do a clot culture. So you have to take the clot and you have to introduce the clot into the blood culture medium bottle in the laboratory, and you have to use the streptokinase to interrupt the clot so that the organisms will come into the medium. That serum which is present in the bottle can be used for Widal test. That is the importance of this clot culture. We will discuss Widal test later. Feces culture is important sometimes for the carriers. And here you should not directly place this feces into bile broth. Here, first you have to collect these feces into selenite F or tetrathianate broth, which is called enrichment medium. There is a difference between enriched media and enrichment medium. In enriched media, we will add, to make the media enriched, blood or serum or egg albumin. Whereas enrichment media, the definition is, in the feces, majority of the organisms are common cells. See, these common cell bacteria will be depressed or stop to multiply in this medium, allowing only Salmonella, Shigella to grow. When you take or when you do subculture from the selenite F broth after 24 hours, you will get less colonies of common cell bacteria and more colonies of Salmonella typhi or paratyphi or paratyphi B. Sometimes chronic carriers, you have to do bone marrow culture and bile culture using the same bile broth blood culture medium. Now I told you, in the indirect method, you have to show either antigen or antibody in the patient's blood or serum. So here the demonstration of circulating antigen in case of enteric fevers. This can be demonstrated in blood and urine by coagglutination test using Staphylococcus coan 1 strain and by ELISA. I already told you both tests are very costly. Now, demonstration of antibodies in the patient serum. I already told you in the indirect methods, demonstration of patient serum, the antibodies are cheaper, very easy, and very quick. Such test in enteric fever is Widal test. This is an agglutination type of test which detects the agglutinins or antibodies against H and O of Salmonella typhi, Paratyphi A and Paratyphi B. We are not including Paratyphi C, I told you, is very, very, very rare. Is Georges Fernandez Isidore Widal is responsible for making this test available for the diagnosis of enteric fevers. Now you can see the Kaufman-White scheme. Paratyphi A, you have antigens, O antigens 1 to 12, Paratyphi B 1, 4, 5, 12, and Paratyphi S 9 and 12, including a virulent antigen sometimes. So 12 is common factor. There is no need to keep O antigens for these 3 tests because they will share and we will keep only one O antigen, preferably that is S typhi. Whereas coming to H antigens, we will keep 3 tests because there are phase 1 different antigens A, B, D. Now we will go for the Widal test. There are 2 types of Widal tests, tube test and slide test. Otherwise, tube agglutination test and slide agglutination test. Now, nobody is going to do the tube agglutination test because it is again some more costly, consuming so many items like different types of test tubes in large numbers. So generally we use 2 types of test tubes of around 5 centimeters length. One is called Dreyer's tube for detection of H agglutination, which is a conical bottomed one, where you will find chalky granular, here we will find cotton woolly agglutination reaction here, whereas Felix tubes are round bottom tubes of 5 centimeters height, which we detect O agglutination positivity by seeing chalky granular deposits. Chalky granular deposits. This is, you have to change this side and this side. What is the preparation? This is like this. So here we are doing O agglutination in one rack, and O agglutination 3 rows of test tubes, one for S typhi, one for Paratyphi A, one for Paratyphi B, and there are 3 controls. There are 3 controls. Here there is one control. Here we are doing doubling dilutions, starting with 20, 40, 80, 160, 320, 640, where we are going to put equal amount of antigen and antibody, corresponding antigen and antibody here. Whereas in the control tubes, you will put only antigen and equal amount of normal saline. You can see here 1:1 dilution, that here when we go up, when it comes to 1:640 dilution means the amount of antibody is less, whereas in 120 amount of antibody is more. So antigen antibody reaction will occur, a visible reaction will occur where equal amount of antigen antibodies are present. That point we will take as a significant titer that will give the positivity or negativity of a patient for these enteric fevers. You can see control, there is no formation of any antigen antibody reaction. Coming to slide agglutination test, we have 4 antigens, that is S-type antigen O, 1 bottle, S-type H antigen 1 bottle, S paratype A 1 bottle, and paratype B 1 bottle. We call here TO, typhi O, here TH, typhi H, here AH, BH. Now this is a positive control. So sometimes we will put a common test in the beginning, whether the kit is functioning or not. We will test with a positive control serum. Here this is the slide agglutination test, where a white cardboard is there with circles. There we have to keep different 1 or 2 drops of different dilutions of the patient serum. I told you how to prepare in the beginning, 1 in 20, 1 in 40, 1 in 80, 1 in 160, 1 in 160, and 1 in 640, something like that, 640 like that. From there, correspondingly, you will take 2-3 drops of that serum, and you will add 1 drop of or 1 or 2 drops of antigen, and you will tilt either on the shaking machine, VDRL shaker, or with your fingers for 1 minute. You will find agglutination of the serum, that what you will find in the blood grouping. Then where there are agglutination particles in the maximum dilutions, that you will take as a positive titer. So here, this is a common O, that is TO. You can see up to 3. This is 20, 40, 80. Here, typhi O, typhi H, 20, 40, 80. Whereas paratype A, paratype B, there are no agglutinations. So here the patient is suffering with Salmonella typhi infection in a significant titer value. We will discuss what is significant titer value. The titer is the highest dilution of serum at which agglutination occurs, indicate the titer of the antibodies. Now, whenever you are going to confirm the significant titer, you should have a value of Salmonella titers in the community in healthy individuals. That will be taken as the baseline titer of that area. Anything more than that will be tested as negative. Whenever coming to reporting Vidal test internationally, we will take 100, 1 in 100 in O, 1 in 200 in H. There we will keep the doubling dilutions, 1 in 100, 1 in 200, 1 in 400, 1 in 800, like that. But in our areas, local areas, where, for example, in Visakhapatnam, a baseline titer was estimated by the senior people or senior microbiologists. They found 1 in 20 is the common titer in all healthy individuals. So anything more than 1 in 20 of O, or 1 in 80 in case of H, we will treat that is a positive thing. Here 1 in more than 1 in 20 means our titer is 1 in, next is 1 in 40. So 1 in 40 for the O is positive and 1 in 80 H titer is positive. Now, Widal test is not the test to describe a patient is having enteric fever or not, but it will help with the clinical symptoms and other findings of the patient. You cannot just say a person is having enteric fever by showing the titers. The results of these titers interpreted taking into consideration the following factors. That is local titer I discussed with you. Now immunization, that will also very important. It will increase the titer. H agglutination. So without O agglutination, H agglutination alone cannot be taken because I told you in the beginning, H agglutination is responsible for IgG and O agglutination is responsible for IgM. IgM is very important because many people will have this IgG antibodies in general condition without any fevers also. Anamnestic reaction that we already discussed in immunology, that will also responsible for increase of the IgG antibodies. Sometimes non-specific antigens will interfere with these antigens that will give a false titer. Sometimes the antibiotic treatment will stop the formation of antibody titer. So a person is having infection, but the antibody titers are not showing to the positivity. You cannot say that person is not having typhoid fever. And carriers will not show any titers to show that they are having enteric fevers. Coming to epidemiology, endemic in India, these are because of water, milk or foodborne. As you know, the COVID-19 was initially stamped as pandemic by WHO. Recently, few days back, the WHO told now the COVID-19 is endemic, like malaria and typhoid in India. It is also like malaria and typhoid. It will become endemic, present all the time. You must know the definitions of what is epidemic, what is endemic, and all these things. The common age group is 5 to 20 years. The source of infection is patient or carrier, or food handlers or cook, which we are going to discuss at the end about this food handlers or cook. Now itself we will discuss about typhoid Mary. This typhoid Mary is born in 1869 in Cookstown in UK and worked as a chef in a restaurant. She is called as Mary Mallon, Mary Brown, typhoid Mary, because she contaminated the food she is making and transmitted the typhoid to many people in UK. Later, she migrated to United States in 1884. There also, she infected so many people when she worked as a cook. The main thing is, here you have to remember, the cleaning after defecation in Western countries and India, they use the tissue paper without using water to clean their hands in majority of the times. Because of the heavy work as a cook, she just cleaned with tissue paper without cleaning the hands with soap and water. She immediately used to prepare the food and transferring the food to the and supplying the food to the restaurant people. There she transmitted, because she is a carrier for typhoid, Salmonella typhi, and carried to the individuals who took the food in the restaurant through the foods prepared by her. The carriers are the main source of infection. They harbor the organisms in gallbladder, biliary tract, intestine, urinary tract, sometimes in the bone marrow also. Detection of carriers are very important for the epidemiological purpose, public health purpose, screening of food handlers and cooks. So in famous restaurants, they will first screen the chefs or the cooks, whether they are carriers of the Salmonella or not. Coming to treatment, the drug of choice once upon a time is chloramphenicol, which was available in 1948, but it doesn't prevent relapse or carrier stays. Nowadays, the third generation cephalosporins are the drugs of soils, but sometimes the ampicillin, amoxicillin, cotrimoxazole also useful. The mostly used antimicrobials are newer quinolines, norfloxacin, ciprofloxacin, ofloxacin. Effective therapeutic alternative in resistant cases, multi-drug resistant Salmonella typhi cases. There are third generation cephalosporins, ceftriaxone, ceftoxime, and cefepirajoam. Carriers you can treat with ampicillin, ciprofloxacin, or the best way is by surgery using cholecystectomy or removal of the gallbladder. Prophylaxis, best methods of control of enteric fever, proper sewage disposal, that is everybody should use a septic latrine, safe water supply with chlorinated water, handling of food hygienically with gloves and everything, and periodic examination of food handlers. Now, here I want to remind you, when you are going for a fruit juice to your roadside vendors who sell these fruit juices, they use ice which is not properly sterilized and made with sterilized water. It contains salmonella in a living state. When you use such ice, there is a possibility of contamination of your fruit juices with the salmonella, causing this enteric fevers. So better not use ice in the fruit juice shops. Use or take only the fruit juice without adding ice. Now coming to immunization, we have heat-killed phenol-preserved whole cell tab vaccine. You have to give by subcutaneous route 2 doses of 5 ml each with 4 to 6 weeks interval. A booster injection every 3 years. Protection 3 to 7 years, say 10 years. Efficacy is 60 to 80%. And we have divalent vaccines also, S typhi and paratyphi A, because I told in India, S typhi is very common. Then among paratyphi, S paratyphi is A is common. He is responsible for the preparation of potent vaccines, Sir Almond Edward Wright. He prepared the purified virulent polysaccharide vaccine. It contains virulent antigen, that VI antigen of S typhi. Intramuscular route, you have to give 25 micrograms, single dose, efficacy 25%. Coming to oral vaccine, live oral using typhi 2 1A strain is available. You have to take 3 doses alternate 2 days. available in enteric coated capsules or in liquid form. Efficacy is 65 to 96%. Production is 2 to 5 years. Here, the capsule, enteric coated capsule is taken orally. That is oral live vaccine. Coming to Salmonella septicemia, Salmonella chlorosuis, Salmonella paratyphi and other serotypes occasionally cause Salmonella septicemia. You know septicemia, the definition, because blood is 100% sterile, any organism entering, even one organism entering into blood, it is called infection. When bacteria enters, we call it as bacteremia. That grows well, divide by binary fission in the blood, using the byproducts into the blood, then that condition is called septicemia. When the septicemia reaches to pyemia, the blood is completely filled with pus cells. Route of infection of this septicemia, Salmonella septicemia, is oral route. It has short incubation period. You will have early invasion of bloodstream. Sometimes fulminant blood infection with or without gastrointestinal manifestation will occur, characterized by suppurative lesions leading to osteomyelitis, deep abscesses, endocarditis, pneumonia, and meningitis. Organisms isolated from blood or exudate from focal lesions. You will see Salmonella endocarditis. The commonest organism is Salmonella typhimurium, causing gastroenteritis, followed by Newport, Dublin, indelible, and Indiana. Generally, this is a zoonotic disease. It will occur from the animals or birds. The commonest such Salmonella food poisoning or gastroenteritis is the meat, improperly cooked meat of the animals, or the improperly boiled eggs. Boiled eggs are very, very important cause of food poisoning of Salmonella, because the hen will pass the egg through the fecal opening or the rectum, because there is no separate uterine opening, that is commonly called as cloaca. So when this egg is coming out from the rectum, the fecal matter is contaminated all around, and that fecal matter sometimes contains this food poisoning carrying Salmonella. So food, meat, egg, milk, sweets, and salads, cross infection is common. Incubation period is 12 to 24 hours, not like the enteric fever. Symptoms are fever, vomiting, abdominal pain, diarrhea, and you will not find any bacteremia here. You will see infective type of intestinal lesions. No complications, no fatality will occur. Whereas in case of enteric fevers, you will see intestinal perforation, which is a complication leading to fatality. Now, diagnosis for this thing is patient's feces, vomitus, suspected footsteps. You have to culture, and the colonies are testing of with convalescent serum. Thank you. You have any doubts or any questions with this entire Salmonella lecture? Because I told you this forms a very important topic in your routine medical life as a practitioner or as a student in the examination, which forms very important essay question, short notes, and very short notes. In your postgraduate entrances, many MCQs will come in this Salmonella. No questions? Okay. Bye.